What's up guys, this is Foden here, or FoGK, and this is going to be a tutorial, well not a tutorial, it's going to be like a Let's Animate series, and this is going to involve the X-Wing fighter from Star Wars. Now I say rigging, before anybody starts commenting they go, oh you need to use bones because it's rigging. Yes, bones are used in rigging, especially for characters, but when it comes to vehicles you don't need to use bones, unless you want to, but then you're going to have to deal with a lot of weight, and that gets a bit fucked up sometimes. So, when I use the term rigging, I mean turning a single mesh model into various different meshes, turning the anchor points ready to be animated. So you're rigging that model up to be animated. That's the term and definition that I am going to use. So let's just get straight into it. I will be stopping and starting the tutorial in the various segments or parts of this walkthrough, because my Cam Studio keeps freezing just as I get to the end and it deletes the whole thing, and it's annoying, so I'm just going to do it in parts and shove it all together. So let's get started. First of all, we've got our X-Wing and it is one mesh. So what we want to do, step one, is to separate the various meshes into pieces. So what we want to do is we want to get the wings separate from the main body. So what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the actual mesh, we're going to check this tool down here, which is the face tool, and then check on the live selection tool up here, and then we want to make sure only select visible elements is off. And the reason for that is when you select something, it selects everything behind it as well, which makes it a bit easier when you come to selecting it, especially when we come into front view to select our wing. And you want to do that as well for the rectangle selection. This is what I'll do, make sure only select visible elements is off. And then to split the mesh in half, or you do it, or in not in half, but into pieces, we're going to select this wing first. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, grab as much of the wing as possible without going over the main body or the other wing. It's going to select most of it, and then you come up here to the live selection tool, you hold shift, and then you get the rest. And if you accidentally go onto another piece and you think, fuck, simple, just hold control and then drag over it. So shift is add, control is minus or subtract. So it's pretty simple. And then once we got all that selected, you right click, you go to split, and what that does is the area that we have now selected, it has created a whole new mesh for that. However, on the main mesh it's still there, so we need to delete it. And I wouldn't just hit delete, because it deletes the main body as well as I have just hit. So Control Z that. What I'll do is I'll select on one of these axes, click once and then delete. So it just deletes the mesh. And if for some reason you do leave something, like I have here, all you do is you go back to the main body, you select this little area, right click, split, click on the axis, delete, and then these are the two pieces that we need for this wing. You select them together, you right click, and you click connect and delete, and that binds them together. You can group it, but I prefer the connect and delete. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do that for the other wings now. So I'm not going to rush through it, but I'm going to do it pretty quick just so you can see. I mean, you can always wind the video back for the first wing if you are stuck. But I'm just going to also show you how quick it takes. You know, it depends really on the model. Some are really complex and you have to get right in the bloody gaps and shit. It's a pain in the ass, but you know, if you really want to do it, you do it. So split that then, and then connect these two together because that's the one wing, and then we go for the next one. So a wing would literally take 30 seconds, and depending on what model you've got, you know, yours might take 30 seconds, which it seems pretty, obviously, well, it depends sort of how used to Cinema 4D you are, but obviously the more practice the better, and so on and so on. Just your workflow is a lot easier because you understand the program. So there we go, we connect and delete these, and then we've got the last wing to do. And then live selection tool, hold shift and grab the rest. Make sure you hold shift, because if you don't then it just creates a whole new selection. And then right click, split, click on the axis and delete. And then if we've left any bits, do the same to those. And then we bind those two together. So now we have that, what we can do is we can rename our new meshes. So the top one is going to be our main body. So we'll name that main body. And then this is the bottom left wing. So what I'll do is I'll put BL wing for bottom left wing. And then the same for the rest. So bottom right wing. Just so we can, you know, see what meshes we want. So we don't have to click on each one to find out which one it is. Because I've done that many times and it takes forever. So, you know, I would always suggest that. And then what we do is we group them all together. So right click and group objects. Enter and just rename it X-Wing. Alright, so I'm going to save it there. So that is the splitting the mesh up. That's the first part. So I'm just going to stop the recording and then I'm going to come back in with another one. Oops. Just so it doesn't crash and delete. So I'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, I'm back. I did try and record the second part but it crashed. So just loading it up again. So now the second part is the anchor points, which we are now going to do. Now, the anchor point is the various point where your object will be scaled, positioned, or rotated from. For example, I grab the rotate tool, this left wing will be rotated from this point. So if I start rotating, and yeah, you get the idea. So what we want to do is we want to position that so that when we come to rotate the wing, it comes to the center of the main body, which luckily enough is already in place. However, there's a slight adjustment because it's not in the center. So what we're going to do is we are going to center the anchor point, and to do that you check this button here, which is the anchor point tool, orange arrows, and then what you want to do is you want to select each mesh, or that one's actually in the middle, and to get it bang on dead in the center, what you want to do is you just want to come down to these coordinates here, making sure you got it selected and the anchor point checked, the position here. So we want to change this to 0. So 0, 0, 0 is the dead center. And then you check off, and then you can move that, and so on and so on. So check that back on, and we're going to do the same with each anchor point on the wing. And then, once we're all happy with that, I'm going to select them all and then move that back to about here, which is in center of the wing. And that is pretty much it for the position. So all of our anchor points are in the right position. However, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rotate them according to the wing angle. So start off with that one. I'm going to rotate this so the green line is pointing in the same direction as the wing. And I'll show you why in a minute. So as you can see here, that's near enough 15. No, actually no, we won't do that yet. We'll just position the anchor point correctly, which is about there. And if you are stuck about, you know, getting the right angle, when you rotate it, look at this orange box. Make sure that this orange right angle here matches the white right angle on the model. So I'd say about that. That's perfect. So that's the correct angle. And then we want to do that for the rest. So just go by the orange box, and then you should be fine. So just quickly do the rest. There. It doesn't have to be bang on perfect, but as long as it's in proportion. There we go, it's fine. And then what I do is I uncheck that, and I round this up to a whole number, and that is now the degree of this wing. So I can now I've got this checked off, I can move the wing, and that angle will change. So because it's near to 14, 15, and on average each one's around 15. So what we're going to do is we're going to change each of those to 15. Now if it has a minus on it, keep it minus. If it doesn't, keep it like that. So whatever you do, just change the number. So that's 15, that's minus 15, and then 15 again. And the reason we round that up is because it makes it a lot easier. Although it's slight adjustments to the wing, you won't really notice it. So now we've got all of our 15 or minus 15 degree angles. We can snap all these to 0, and what that does is that rotates the wing level. So if we do that now to each one of them, then that is the exact position we want our wings in, because obviously that is another pose for the X-Wing. So you've got the wings like that, and you've got the wings open like this. So when it comes to animating it, you get the rotation tool, and from 30 frames to 60 frames we want them, I'd say we want them closed to open. So what we do is we go to 30, And then what we do is we select the rotation, hit 0 and enter, and we want to do that for every single wing. So click on the mesh, 0, enter, and what that does is that centers all of the wings. And then we come to, okay, yeah, I thought so. Do the same for, and what you could do is actually, if this, when you set a keyframe past 0, usually it keeps your first keyframe at the original setting. So you can just select all of these and then delete that keyframe. So again, click on the keyframe and delete. So then that keeps it that stable stance. And then go to 60 frames. And then what we want to do is we want to just slightly rotate these in the angle that we want them to go, or the direction, just so we know if it's a plus or a minus figure. So if we click on here, that's minus 15 there. That one is 15 because it's positive. That one's negative, so that's minus 15. And that's 15. And then you can keep between 15 and 0 to animate your X-Wing. So that's pretty nice. And that is how I will do it. As that's several steps, you do the mesh, and then you set the anchor points. And that is pretty much it. But I'm going to now stop it, and I'm going to do a few more last adjustments for this X-Wing model. So just so it doesn't crash again, I will close Cinema 4D and reopen it. So I'll be back in just 1 second. So what's up, guys? We are back to part 3, which is just going to be a few more adjustments. So now we've got all the wings sorted, and what I'll do is I'll just select, remove all the keyframes, making sure that I'm past 60 frames, so so they stay open. Because if I delete the keyframes here, the model will stay in this position. But because I want them open, I'll delete them past 60, and then that's all good. So we're going to hide all the wings, and to do that you've got 2 little buttons next to each of the mesh. Click the top one until it's red, which is 2 clicks. And if you want to do see a tutorial on using or hiding objects, I've recently put a tutorial up about that, so go check that out if you want to know a bit more about that. That'd be good. So yeah, we've got the droid here, so go away. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the top half of his head move or rotate round, because obviously the droids do that, but however the arms stay there. So luckily enough, it's pretty clear to us where the top half is, because it's got a nice low poly line around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the main body, again, mesh tab, live selection tab, and making sure you're at the right angle, because you don't want to start selecting it when it's here, because again, if you've got only select visible elements off, it selects everything underneath it. So as long as you've got nothing in the background, for example this angle, then we can go to our main body and we can just select just the top half. Make sure we get all of that done, and then just rotate around and make sure you've got every piece, which I have. And then you right click, split, click on the axis and delete. So then we've got a separate mesh now. And we'll call this droid and rename that. So now what we need to do is we need to set the anchor point for this. Now this is a bit different, so this is where you're going to sort of see. The anchor point, it needs to be dead in the center. So if I go to top view and hide the main body, just so we can see, the dead center here is where our anchor point needs to be. So we grab our mesh, we come to our anchor point tool, and make sure the move tool's on. That makes it a lot easier, because then you can click anywhere and drag it. And we want to get that as close to the center as possible, and that means zoom in right in. Keep going until you can't zoom in anymore. Oops, where's that gone? I've lost it. Oh, there it is. Select the rotations to 0 because I don't know what the hell I done there. But yeah, zoom right in and get that as close to the center as possible. Right, so I've zoomed in maximum amount and popped that right in the center, and then zoom out. So when we come to rotate that, I'll show you. When we come to rotate it, it will turn in a perfect circle and have no sort of egg-like rotations. And then what we want to do is we want to select the anchor point, and I always put it just to the bottom of the mesh, because that's where I prefer to have it, which will be here. So we've now got that in the dead center of the droid. So that's ready for animating now. Brilliant. And if we unhide the rest, we have now got a not fully rigged. Well, I could say fully rigged. Just say a rigged version of the X-wing. So the wings move, the droid turns, and as long as you animate just the X-wing group all together, that's fine. Unless you want to start doing the wings, but then you'll animate these. So to move the actual X-wing, you animate the group. To animate the certain parts, you click on the mesh. If that makes sense. Now, there's nothing else really on the X-wing that you can do apart from these little propeller things on the wings. Now, I'm not going to go into that because that, yeah, that's a bit tricky there. Unless they don't move, but I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into the X-wing far enough. So, yeah, that's pretty much all you can do for the for this. And then you can go add some light in. Now, if I show you actually, I'll just quickly render out a nice picture. So, I'll set a camera, hit a keyframe, and I will render that as just a PNG file, 800 by 800. Well, we don't really need to do that. Just as long as you ain't got a save output or an output file, you don't really need to worry. Do the obviously your aspect ratio, so 800 by 800, and render it as a current frame. It doesn't render it to your computer, however, it does render it to the preview or the render region or the picture viewer. So we got that without lighten. So come off that now. Now we can add light in, and then we'll do the same again. We'll render another picture, and I'll show you. So I'll show you the difference between the two. So light in, where's that? My light in setup. I like it. Good light in setup. And if you want this light in setup, go to my 3D animation pack. It's in there. So we want to match the. So what you do is you group or select both of these together. You size it up so the model matches, or the guy matches the X-wing. So I'll do it about there. And because we're looking at this angle, we want him facing us-ish. So there we go. And then what you do is you delete the mesh, and the lighting's all set up. So now I will render this out again. Now, if I just use the arrow key and flick between the two, look at the difference. Lovely. So you've got boring, nice shadows and whatnot. Now imagine that in a nice scene. Ooh, and then some animation and some motion blur. That'll look nice. So as long as, you know, lighting's always important. I always say this because it is. It does increase your render time, but it's worth it. I mean, if you look at these areas here, these little guns, look how basic that is. Obviously, it's a bit low poly because I'm zooming in. Pixelated, sorry. Look at the difference between two. It pretty much changes the whole look of the model because it adds some colour to it, a more orangey tint. But yeah, that's the difference, guys, and it also illuminates it if you've got a dark model. So you know that's all good. So please like and comment if you want any more models that you want me to rig, vehicles or characters. Put it into the comment section and I'll do a little series on it. You know, let's animate X-wing. That's what this video is going to be called. So you know, I'll do the same. You know, episode 3. Let's animate a car, or you know, something like that. So if you do want to know how to rig something, you know, to a certain depth, share it in the comments, and we'll, you know, I'll try and do it. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.